and beat him in those areas. So Romney has some work to do, and so does the president. Dee Davis of the Center for Rural Strategies says in 2008, Barack Obama lost rural counties by a smaller margin than John Kerry or Al Gore did.
Obama tightened the race. He lost rural by about 7% in the swing states. If he could do that again, this time he would win in a walk. But at this point, rural looks pretty tough.
Here's why Davis says that. In 2008, rural districts in Congress were split about evenly between Democrats and Republicans. But in 2010, a Republican wave washed across those districts. Nationally, Republicans won 60 House seats in 2010, and 2/3 of those wins came from rural America. So the small towns that Romney is visiting these next 5 days are red and getting redder. The Republican candidate just needs to keep that momentum going, while President Obama has the more difficult task of moving the rural trend lines in the opposite direction. Ari Shapiro, NPR News, Stratham, New Hampshire.
You're listening to WBEZ. Thanks for tuning in. It's 4:48. Straight ahead, a Chicago man sues the city for wrongful conviction. We'll have that story coming up. Right now, let's check in with Jill Egan for our latest traffic update.
Heading inbound on the Edens Expressway, it's 40 minutes from Lake Cook to the junction, outbound 23. Kennedy out to O'Hare 44, 29 to the junction. You'll save 5 in the Express. Those are 24 minutes. Inbound, an hour and 5 minutes from O'Hare into downtown. 30 from the junction in the Eisenhower. Out to Wolf 39 and 55 minutes to Thorndale. Inbound delays start at Route 83. It's an hour and 9 minutes. Thorndale to downtown. 36 from Wolf in. Stevenson out to the Tri-State 35 and 50 out to 355. Inbound 355 to Lakeshore Drive is 58 minutes. Outbound Dan Ryan 24 to 95th Street and inbound 29. Eastbound 8094. It has delays from the Tri-State over to I-65. Earlier crash at Broadway's been cleared. Northbound Lakeshore Drive slow through Grant Park and then Randolph to Chicago. Southbound is solid from Irving all the way to Chicago Avenue. Support for NATTEC traffic on WBEZ is provided by Shell, featuring Shell nitrogen enriched gasolines. I'm Jill Egan, WBEZ.
WBEZ is supported by Fifth Third Bank, presenting its preferred program, providing a personal banker to help create a customized financial approach. More at 53.com. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank. And Focus features presenting Moonrise Kingdom, directed by Wes Anderson, and starring Bruce Willis, Edward Norton, and Bill Murray in select theaters now. And by Cirque du Soleil presenting Dralion, a show that intersects East and West, opens June 20th at Allstate Arena and June 27th at the United Center. Tickets at cirquedusoleil.com. 92 degrees now, on our way to a high of 94. This is WBEZ. Sometimes cities feel crime gets so bad that they need help, and they get it from federal law enforcement agencies. This year, Chicago's police department teamed up with the FBI and Drug Enforcement Agency to reduce crime in the city's most violent neighborhoods. It's a familiar move. Back in the 1980s, Chicago officials created a similar task force, but it was marred by instances of misconduct. Recently, WBEZ got an interview with a man swept up by that early task force, a mistake that kept him on death row for more than a decade. WBEZ's Natalie Moore heard how this man worries history could repeat itself.
The guy who got tangled up in this crime task force business is Nathan Fields. One morning in June 1985, Fields woke up in his home in Chicago's Woodline neighborhood, and he drove to get his daily cup of coffee. He got a block away when a Chicago police officer pulled him over and asked for ID. Then more officers popped up from undercover cars.
They pulled their guns out and told me don't move. They cuffed me up and they took me to the Chicago police station. And as I got out the car, one of them told me, "We'll see you in 40 years, Nate." And I really didn't understand that.
And Fields says he certainly didn't understand why he was being accused of murder. In fact, 2 murders. Fields got a bench trial the next year, in 1986. He and a co-defendant were convicted of the double murder. Fields spent nearly 18 years behind bars. 11 of them were on Illinois' death row. Fields had a new trial in 2009, and he was acquitted. Now, Fields has a certificate of innocence. That's the short version of Fields' story, and it's a story you may have heard before, one where police just got the wrong guy, and there's a wrongful conviction. But when I talked to Fields in his lawyer's office, he says there's more to all this. He figures he knows why he was a target back in the 80s.
Because I'm male. There was no other reason for them